All right, welcome back to Quick Slant from the Daytona Beach News Journal. We made it to 2025. It's high school football season again, and it's something I don't think we've recorded in 9 months, Chris, 10 months, something like that.
And yet it feels just like yesterday. Here we are, joined by a new friend.
That's right. So it's not just me and you this year. We've got
our
Zach
prize
Allen.
Free agent acquisition in the offseason.
Listen, we've been hitting the portal. We got, we're throwing around our NIL resources, what we got. So, so Zach Allen's joining us. He just started 2 weeks ago. So, Zach, are you ready for a year of Quick Slant and a year of high school football?
Oh, I'm absolutely ready, and I'm so happy to hear me and Chris Boyle are already on friendship level. I'm glad we've reached that stage of our relationship. But yeah, no. Seriously, I've had a couple weeks to kind of learn the area, visit a few schools, very much still getting my footing, but in the next couple weeks I'll learn even more. I'm just looking forward to covering the Lucia Flagler area sports in general, and the first task in that is the football season. So I'm ready to go.
Yeah, we're kind of going baptism by fire here and just throwing you in and seeing if you swim, if I can use like 4 analogies or 4 cliches in the same sentence. But fellas, we got a full slate of games this week. Let's talk about a few of the big ones. We'll follow our usual format. And, so Chris and I will talk and have Zach kind of add in on the teams that he's seen so far and kind of gotten used to. We got a rivalry game in week 1. Flagler Palm Coast and Matanzas. And I'll give you each. Zach, I know you've seen Flagler Palm Coast. Chris, you've got experience for years with Matanzas. So let's go to you first. And what are you looking for with Matanzas in their season opener?
So this is a game that closed last season. They played in week 11 a year ago. So for Matanzas, this is the second time in a row in a competitive game they'll play their rivals FPC. So I think that's kind of a neat. It's a neat quirk. I mean, yeah, they used to be the traditional week 1 game, and then it became moved to different. It got moved a few times around the schedule. It closed the last couple of seasons, but they've put it back in the week 1 slot. And for me, for Matanzas, I think Ladarian Baker is going to give this secondary, this kind of new look FPC defense, quite a challenge. Last year, he had 10 catches for 108 yards and a touchdown against the Bulldogs. And that was against a really, formidable defense that took the ball away. A team that won 9 games last year. So I think Baker was an all-area pick for us. I thought was kind of the standout player on the Matanzas offense. And we'll see what the new quarterback situation with Matanzas and how much they're going to be kind of revolving that offense going in his direction.
Yeah, Cole Walker, actually a former FPC guy, is slated to be the guy for Matanzas behind center. So an interesting storyline to follow with the guy throwing Baker the ball. By the way, Baker in one half last week against Episcopal, it was a 7-7 game. They called it at halftime due to lightning, but he had 4 catches for 47 yards. So he was kind of on pace for, right around 100 yards.
Right.
FPC, Zach, what do you got on FPC? What are you looking for?
Yeah, they're kind of in they've had an off season, to put it lightly. They come off a 9-win season. They let go of their coach, but they bring in Patrick Turner, who has a history of winning and turning around programs. He was at Palatka, who had 1 win when he took over that program, and they had a few winning seasons in a row before he took this job. And they're kind of Matanzas light. I mean. Or new Matanzas almost, because they've hit the portal or transfer portal on unofficial term pretty hard, and a few of their key players this season, it sounds like, are from Matanzas. So we have some inner Flagler trading there, and that'll always make the rivalry more interesting. Similar to Matanzas's quarterback situation, we have Ladarius Simmons, who was at Flagler Palm Coast in the past, had a pretty good year at Halifax, and is now back. And then a Matanzas transfer, Caden Birchfield. When I talked to Coach Turner after their official clinic scrimmage against Seabreeze, he wasn't ready to name the starting QB, and their preseason game got lightninged out. So who knows who's going to take the field first. But even with all the turnover they've had, they lost their defensive lineman, Colby Cronk, who's at NC State now. The leading passer, Hayden Hayes, their top 3 receivers and leading rusher. They do have some dudes. They're returning a cornerback, Lucas Siraj, who had 7 picks and 17 pass breakups last season. Another Matanzas guy who is going to play both ways for them, KJ Robinson. Coach Turner mentioned him by name, and he really mentioned the whole secondary. He said that's probably going to be their strongest group, and it's one of the strongest secondary groups that he's ever coached. So we'll see how that happens, or how that plays out when they take the field. I think really I'm just interested to see how they look in week 1, especially with their preseason game getting canceled beforehand, and just a lot of players that are going to be in increased roles this season.
And Zach gets the benefit of seeing, to me, one of the more exciting rivalries in the area. I think, regardless what these rosters look like, what the records at the end of the season are, Flagler County always turns out for this game. I think it's always one of the more entertaining and vibrant atmospheres that you're going to see on a week-to-week basis in this area.
Also, shout out to Zach. We throw him right into the fire, and he comes out firing. So,
I do my best.
Let's go to game number 2, Seabreeze at Spruce Creek, and we'll start with Seabreeze. Chris, what are you looking for there?
Well, yeah, for Seabreeze, I mean, it's just trying to make this game more competitive. Last year it was 50-0. It was the first game in charge for Mike Klein as head coach. They had a roster that was gutted from the year before. He really likes the strides they've taken year on year. I think this is a roster that's much more competitive. And you look at the 4 seasons before that, the games against Spruce Creek were 14-6, 21-14, 32-20, 21-14. So you talk about 3 one-score games in between there. I think that would be a huge victory for Seabreeze if they're able to pull it within that close and to narrow the gap that much. For me, one of the challenges for Seabreeze in this game is that they're going to be playing some of their best players a lot of snaps, both offense and defense. You look at their roster. You got Zach Voltaire, who's coming back, who will be playing kind of a slot back and safety role for them. Logan Smith at linebacker and running back. Matthew Wells playing defensive end and tight end. So they are going to ask a lot of their best players with the state of their roster. And one other interesting note for Seabreeze, they have a new offensive coordinator this year by the name of Matt Dickman, and he was the former head coach at both Seminole Ridge High School and Harrison High School in Georgia, and he was the head coach in high school of Justin Fields, the starting quarterback of the New York Jets.
Yeah, the NFL starter and a guy who had a pretty dang good high school career. By the way, if I make any like Ohio State references or whatever, I'm an Ohio guy originally, and our guy Zach Allen is a Penn State graduate. So that's just to slide a couple little digs in there for him.
Yeah.
I thought that was necessary background.
Yeah.
Spruce Creek. Zach, what are you watching?
Yeah, football is usually won in the trenches, and Spruce Creek defensively has one of the best defensive line groups, I think, in the area. It was the same way last season. The only difference is they don't have Derry Norris anymore. He's at Georgia Tech. But they still have Chad Cannon and Freddie Wilson. And they have another guy who I think is kind of an edge role kind of guy, Caden Woody, who sounds like he's going to fill in and play a big role in this defensive line. And so I think if Seabreeze wants to get the week 1 upset against Spruce Creek, I don't know if we can call it an upset. If
they can call it that.
All right.
Yeah.
If they want to get the upset, their offense, it's going to start with the offensive line. If you can't run, then they're just going to Spruce Creek is just going to commit to the pass, and even then their pass rush is going to be unbelievable with those 3 guys. So I think it'll be one there. And considering the roster Spruce Creek has, I think they have a favorable matchup.
Let's go DeLand at Madison County. This was an interesting game last year. These teams also played early in the 2024 season. And Madison County won that game, kind of on their way to a state championship in the rural classification. DeLand ended up 5-6 last year, made the playoffs with a really young cast of characters. Zach, I'll go to you first here because I know you've seen DeLand. What impresses you, or what stands out to you about them? What are you looking for?
Yeah, first of all, their locker room. No, I'm just kidding. Their locker room is really nice. It's really nice in there. It's all neat. All the players take really good care of it. But from a football standpoint, I think it's really just the experience that they gained last season heading into this season. Um, they started 12 freshmen and sophomores last season. All of those guys, for the most part, are back. They really didn't lose anybody or bring anyone in transfer wise. And even though they still only have like 6 seniors, I think it's a young team that is also experienced, which I think is scary for the future. And I think they will be pretty good this season. Obviously, the focal point is their running back and strong safety now this season. Tage Moore hit 1,300 yards last season, but he's a humble guy. He never was really talking about his athletic accomplishments, but the one thing he was not humble about, he said he wanted 2,000 yards this season, which with Rick Darlington's classic single wing offense, I think it's definitely doable. And I think this game is a great first test. Again, Madison County is no pushover, even though they're a rural team. They won the state championship last season. And I think that makes DeLand battle tested going into this season, and I'm just really excited to see how that young team has come together over the offseason, just meshed even more, and how that offense looks. And I think apparently, according to free safety Marcellus Carey and a couple other defensive players, their defense is going to be improved as well, which kind of was their weakness last season.
Chris, you got anything?
Yeah, I saw DeLand in the spring, and their game against Madison County last year kind of was a precursor to a lot of their games last year. Just points and points and points. If they can tighten up on defense, I mean, I think this is a team that's got a ton of skill position talent that should put up 30, 40 pretty easily most weeks between Tage Moore, Marcellus Carey, you mentioned, and I think another year of Gardner Nordman as the quarterback.
Yep.
I think I thought he was impressive for his first year as a full-time starter. I think DeLand's got all the components to be a real problem in their district and potentially beyond as we get closer to the end of the season. I think that team's going to grow into itself, and they're going to be a real handful to match up with scheme-wise and man for man on most weeks.
Yeah, if that defense is improved, they're going to be scary. That's the bottom line. Quick hitters. There's a couple of teams I want to touch on real quick with you, Chris, because Zach hasn't seen these guys yet. But Crescent City at Daytona. What are you looking for at Daytona this year?
Yeah, I mean, Daytona is one of the teams that's benefiting from continuity. I mean, their coaches. There have been so many coaching changes over the last handful of years that you're seeing player movement. You're seeing all kinds of turnover, and they're a team now with Matt Martin going into year 3 that I think could be poised for an improved season. You look back to last year, they were in a bunch of games. They finished the year at 3-7, including this game. They lost by 1. They lost at 13-12 to Crescent City, who underwent a late coaching change. Robert Ripley, who used to be the head coach at Matanzas, stepped down there during the summer. And you know what? I think Daytona has a chance to kind of be a little bit of a dark horse in its district to make some noise. I think they have Rockledge and New Smyrna in that district. I think if they can and they finished the year last year with an overtime win over Seabreeze. So I think they're a team that I've kind of got an eye on that could potentially be better than you think. They're better than their record was a year ago at the very least.
Yeah, not only head coach continuity, but quarterback continuity. They've got Jeremiah Hancock back behind center for them. And he almost led a win last week in the preseason game. They lost to Lake Howe 21-16, but they orchestrated a 10-minute drive into the fourth quarter, took the lead late, and then, Lake Howe was able to strike quickly, on a busted coverage. And
if you're executing a 10-play drive in the preseason, you're going to go home happy, I think.
10-minute, yeah. So I mean,
10-minute drive. Excuse me.
They were doing some things right there. Pine Ridge at Winter Springs. I saw Winter Springs last week because they matched up against Atlantic. They ended up winning 19-0 in a game that was closer than the score indicated. Just kind of got away from Atlantic late. But they're hosting Pine Ridge this week. What are you looking for at Pine Ridge this year?
Well, it's another Pine Ridge grad taking over this program, and Alex Russell. So I think, you go back a number of years, they hired Kenny Pickens, who was a Pine Ridge grad. Didn't really work out for him, unfortunately. But a chance for a winning streak if you're Pine Ridge. They finished last year with a win in the Teal Bowl over Atlantic. So if they can start the year on the right foot here, they lost 14 games in between that. That ended a 14-game losing streak. They started 3-0 just 2 seasons ago, which, you go back in the annals of local football history, a Pine Ridge win over the First Academy is going to look like an outlier, given where TFA's gone since there. But they've always had good individual players at Pine Ridge. There's players that have left that program that have gone on and played big roles elsewhere. It's about trying to keep what they have in place and being able to have more than a year or two of continuity at the coaching spot. I think that those are going to be key. And Russell's a guy that's passionate, and Russell wants to make that thing work.
Well, and we were talking that we saw him a couple weeks ago out at the officials clinic as well. And I pointed over to one of their players and said, "Alex, who's that? He's built like a tight end or a defensive lineman." "Oh, that's our quarterback," is what he said. DeAndre Weston. And he's not really a true kind of traditional quarterback, but he's just a guy who's probably their best athlete, who's put back there out of necessity. And he's a guy who's going to make some plays this year. So he definitely looks the part. So he'll be interesting to watch too. Last one for you, Chris, before we get Zach back in here. University at Sebastian River. What are you looking for out of University this week and this year?
Yeah, I mean, they put up a lot of points last week. They won 37-36 over North Miami. This is a team that won 19 games the last 2 years. I don't think any team had more turnover than University. When you look at Justin Roberts taking a head coaching job up in Georgia, you look at the players they lost to graduation between Malachi Walters, Jermaine Hayes. I mean, you can go Anthony May. You can go down the list. Like every one of their major offensive contributors is essentially gone from a year ago. Mason Moore and Barrett Schultz are probably their 2 best juniors. They've gone and transferred to Spruce Creek and Lake Mary, respectively. So it's kind of a fresh start for Matt Trumbley, who's a first-year head coach. He's been with the program for quite a number of years as an assistant, so an exciting opportunity for him to get the job and to try to build something. And they did bring over 2 players from Daytona that I think are very interesting playmakers, Cassidy Maldonado and Deshaun Flood. I thought 2 of their more dynamic skill guys over the last couple of seasons.
And they charged back to win that game against North Miami last week, scored the go-ahead touchdown with 44 seconds left. And that was one of the guys, the other offensive weapons, Magnum Rojas. So, you wrote when Trumbley took the job that University was scheduled to lose 98.9% of its offensive production. That's not a small number. So it'll be interesting just to kind of see who steps into those roles. That's it for the games we're going to break down this week, but there are 2 other teams we want to mention. 2 teams that are on bye in week 1, Mainland and New Smyrna Beach. Zach, I know you've seen Mainland. What kind of stands out to you about them, or what are you looking for, as they kind of get their season started here in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think Mainland's been the team I've seen the most so far early on, and I think they're probably the opposite of DeLand, but they're in the same position as DeLand, if that makes sense. They went 5-6 like DeLand did last season. I think they're poised to do a lot better than that, especially in the second season under Coach Squatty Bell. But they're really strong defensively. It's Squatty Bell put it the Dennis Tank King show on defense. Just a super tall, big, quick linebacker. And they beat the Class 6A runner-up, Kissimmee Osceola Cowboys. That's with a K on Cowboys. 14-13 in week 0, and it was the Marcus Day show on defense. He had 3 interceptions. Mainland picked off Osceola 4 times, and it was the defense that kind of held it together until Mainland's offense came alive in the fourth quarter. They scored 14 points in like a minute because Osceola fumbled a kickoff right after Mainland scored. So it really comes down to whether their offense is able to put it together. They've brought in a lot of pieces. They're returning the same starting QB, but their wide receivers are just totally different. They brought in Braylon Simmons from Flagler Palm Coast. Chris Butler is a guy to look out for from Halifax. He scored one of the touchdowns for Mainland in their win over Osceola. And then another guy that I thought looked impressive last Friday was Jaden Mello Parks from New Smyrna Beach. He's just a big receiver. He made a couple great plays, including like a 35-yard touchdown, which was called back because of a penalty. I think both of his catches were called back because of penalties, but he's a guy that can go up and get it. He's, from my understanding, also going to be on their basketball team, so he can jump as well. It's just a matter of whether his plays stand when he makes them.
He's a guy who he was a freshman at New Smyrna Beach last year too, so kind of just stepping into year two, another system, but just having that extra year of high school under your belt probably pay off for him.
Absolutely.
You also mentioned Braylon Simmons. Braylon's a guy who Squatty said he's probably going to line up mostly at running back. And then you've got guys like Christian Cooper, who's their leading returning receiver, along with Butler and Parks, like you mentioned, kind of being the weapons for Sebastian Johnson, who's also back at quarterback. So definitely an interesting team there too. One last one for you, New Smyrna Beach. And Chris, I know, Zach, you haven't seen New Smyrna Beach yet. So Chris, I'll kind of turn this to you. What are you looking for out of New Smyrna this year?
Yeah, I think an expanded opportunity for Todd Cutler. I think that you look at the way he finished last year. He had 18 carries for 143 yards, 3 touchdowns against Pine Ridge. He had 15 for 122 against Holy Trinity. In the playoff game against Lake Wales, 11 carries for 74 yards. And this is a kid who was a freshman last year, I think. So I think you get a real opportunity for him to step into a potentially, I don't know if every down role is the right way to look at it, but I think he's going to certainly feature as a big piece of New Smyrna's offense this year. We know that John Wilkinson loves to run the football, and he's gotten a ton of production out of the backs he's had over there. So he's one player that certainly has my attention, as is Mason Riddle.
Mason Riddle, yep.
6'5", 230-pound tight end, moved in over the summer from Texas, or back in the springtime from Texas, committed to Air Force, so gives them a weapon in the passing game too. They did throw it a bit more last year with Alex Johnson at the helm, so they do have the opportunity to at least have a multifaceted running game, and then they have a big tight end to check it down to and to potentially win those battles over the middle of the field.
Yeah, Cole Angler going to be the starting quarterback for the Barracudas. And you mentioned, Todd Cutler. They've kind of got a two-headed monster because you have him. He was their leading running back last year, just basically due to necessity. Started his freshman year as maybe running back 3, running back 4, and was pressed into duty because of injuries. But now that he's back and probably better as a sophomore, they also bring back a big back in Calvin Blunt, who will kind of be a change of pace guy for them, just a straight bruiser, from the backfield. So that's all I got this week. Anything else we should mention before we wrap up, guys? I think this was good. Zach, thank you for indulging us, and Chris, it's always good to have.
Let's just all say some kind words and hope that it doesn't rain this week. Let's have games happen in week 1 and a race this Saturday. Let's make all this go nice and smoothly.
Who do we need to send that request to?
Well, thankfully, it seems like the Aaron is turned up away from the coastline, so that's a good start.
Yeah, absolutely.
Worst comes to worst, we can reach out to NOAA and ask them to hold the rain over Florida.
Right.
Yeah. Jeez. Chris Boyle, Zach Allen, Chris Vinel. This has been Quick Slant from the Daytona Beach News Journal, and we will see you next week. You know why? Because it's football season again.